Hey guys, Vance McDonough here with True Image Fitness. Hey, so today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the dreaded carbohydrate. You know, I think the carbohydrate gets a bad rap. We always hear about low carbohydrate diets and how you need to drop your carbs in order to burn body fat, and if you don't drop the carbs out, you're going to remain fat. First of all, let's talk about a few things. First of all, as you know, as a sponsored athlete with Pro Fight Sports, I get to use a lot of really cool supplements, from fat burners to protein powders to pre-workouts. But the key word is supplements. All of these tools are supplements to my nutrition program. Now, one of the really cool things is when you are using supplements, it actually assists you, enabling you to drop out some of the other things in your nutrition program that you don't really need. Now, let's be fair. Some carbohydrates are actually really good for you. The thing is, a lot of people don't realize where all of their carbohydrate sources come from. When we think of carbohydrates, we typically think of sugars, simple sugars, processed sugars, candy bars, candy, cookies, cakes, and things of that sort. We forget that we also get carbohydrates from vegetables, and there are quite a few carbohydrates and even proteins in vegetables. Now, vegetarians and vegans kind of already have a lock on this because they know that by mixing the right kind of vegetables together, they get the amino acid and BCAA factors that they need in order to create complex proteins. And they also know that they're getting some energy from carbohydrates. Now, we all know that calories are what we need in order to survive. You live off of calories. We get calories from fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So what you want to learn and what you want to change in your nutrition program is where your carbohydrates come from. That is going to dictate your body composition. So if you're getting most of your carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables and not processed breads and donuts and cakes and all that really stuff that tastes really good, but the thing is, when you eat those processed carbohydrates, you get insulin spikes, number one. And what happens is your insulin shoots up, and when you spike your insulin really quickly, and you do this when you eat simple sugars like cakes and candies and all that kind of stuff, you do two things. One, you create, your body goes into fat storing mode. So any fat that you consume in those meals, your body's going to store it. And if you go over your daily caloric requirement, you're going to store all of that extra as body fat. When you get your carbohydrates from things like fruits and vegetables, you don't get those insulin spikes, and your body doesn't tend to store fat. The other thing is, when you get your carbohydrates from vegetables mostly, some fruits, a smaller amount, you're not getting the huge caloric intake, and what you're going to find, it's easier to work at a deficit and remain full and burn the body fat that you need in order to drop the weight that you're looking to drop. Now, we're not all created equal. The person with low body fat who's active and is moving and is doing things, that person can eat a little bit more of the carbohydrates, and they have a little bit more leeway in the types of carbohydrates that they can consume because they're using them right away. They don't have a store on their body. They don't have stored fat, so therefore their body immediately uses what's in the bloodstream, and that's typically the meals that they consume during the day. If you're someone like me who was overweight at one point in time, or somebody who wants to get leaner, then it becomes very important to understand how to use carbohydrates in your nutrition program. The other thing that's really cool is carbohydrates facilitate in the body's ability to hold or lose water. Don't forget, we're mostly water. So those fat cells that are sitting under your skin and around your organs, they're mostly water. So the really cool thing is, when you drop your carbohydrates down, you'll notice right away this immediate weight loss. And typically that's your body saying, oh, I don't have as many carbohydrates. I don't need to hold all this water. And you start eliminating water. You start going to the bathroom more, and you'll notice, hey, I lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks. It's water weight, but it's still weight. And that water underneath the skin, or what we call subcutaneous, tends to look like body fat, tends to feel like body fat. And dropping the extra water is actually a good thing, because you do look better and you do feel better. You feel a little bit lighter in your feet, and it's a motivating factor. As those fat cells shrink, because we never get rid of fat cells, but we can shrink them, most of it's water. and the energy giving nutrients that fat is, because that's what fat is, it's stored energy. As you use those up, those fat cells shrink. A lot of it's water, and then the rest of it is stuff. Those are calories that you burn. It's 10 grams of for every 1 gram of fat, you've got 10 calories. So our body is very efficient at storing these things. Dropping your carbohydrates down will facilitate in your body getting rid, or actually shrinking fat cells. So the big thing that you want to learn is just make little changes. You know, you don't have to give up all of your bread, but let's do this. One of the things that you can do is you can create a calorie deficit every day by cutting out some of the processed sugars, replacing them with vegetables. You're going to find that you're going to have a calorie deficit. You're going to have a complex carb roaming your system versus a simple sugar, which again spikes insulin, creates a hunger response, and facilitates fat storage. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get rid of some of those simple carbs, and then you want to bring in some of those complex carbs. Start with your carbohydrates. I tell everybody, don't worry about what your daily protein is. Don't even think about what your fat intake is right now. Start with learning how carbohydrates work. Begin there. Make adjustments in your nutrition program there. Get active, get moving, and then slowly start worrying about what my protein intake is, what my dietary fat is. Do everything in stages, especially for somebody who's been sedentary, or if you're someone who hasn't really been focusing on nutrition for a long time. Athletes are a little bit different. Everybody's a little bit different. But the average person looking to lose weight, my advice is begin with carbohydrates. Learn which are the best ones for you. Learn the ones and one thing that you can really do is kind of create a log so that you know what you're doing every day. We all have a lot of bad habits, and habits are things that we don't think about. So for 3 days, write down every meal that you consume. Every time you put something in your mouth, just write it down. And then in 3 days, you can kind of look at it. And I guarantee you're going to see that you're eating some things that you don't need to eat. Then what you're going to do is you just kind of make some switches. You know, instead of the bread, you know, switch it to 1 piece of fruit, some vegetables, and a protein source. You don't have to have a sandwich for lunch. You can have a salad instead. And by doing that, you cut out the bread, and you've already cut out some calories for the day. So just little changes. Understand how carbohydrates are working for you and against you, and those little changes will go a long way. Tomorrow we're going to talk about dietary fat and how much you actually need. Don't forget, it's a high caloric. It's meant to be there for stores and instant energy, so you don't need a lot of that either. But we'll talk about dietary fat tomorrow. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Get up, get out, get moving, do something good for yourself, hang loose and stay fit, and I'll talk to you soon.